The late September wind whipped through the concrete canyons of Manhattan, sending Clara Thompson's research papers scattering across the sidewalk. She lunged forward, her chestnut hair falling across her face as she scrambled to collect the precious documents before they disappeared into the evening rush-hour traffic. "Perfect, just perfect," she muttered, clutching her recovered papers to her chest. The Plaza Hotel loomed before her, its golden lights twinkling against the darkening sky. Inside those walls tomorrow morning, she would present her groundbreaking research on cellular regeneration to some of the most prestigious names in biological science. Clara took a deep breath, straightening her navy blazer, the one she'd bought specifically for this conference. At 26, she was the youngest presenter at the International Symposium on Molecular Biology, and the butterflies in her stomach reminded her of this fact every few minutes. The hotel's revolving door spun her into a world of marble floors and crystal chandeliers. The lobby bustled with conference attendees, their name badges catching the light as they moved through the space. Clara felt instantly out of place, like a sparrow among peacocks. "Got checking in?" The receptionist's perfectly manicured nails clacked against her keyboard. "Yes." "Reservation for Clara Thompson." After several moments of typing, the receptionist's brow furrowed. "I'm showing your check-in was completed an hour ago, Miss Thompson." "That's impossible. I just got here from Boston. Room 1542. The key was already issued. Clara's heart rate doubled. There must be some mistake. "I need to get into my room. My presentation is tomorrow morning. Let me call security to escort you up. We'll sort this out immediately." The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt endless. The security guard, whose name tag read Lucas, maintained a professional silence as Clara's mind raced through worst-case scenarios. When they reached room 1542, Lucas knocked firmly. No response. He used his master key, and the door swung open to reveal a sight that made Clara's breath catch. The room was occupied, very occupied. A suit jacket worth more than her monthly salary was draped over a chair. A laptop hummed on the desk, surrounded by financial documents. The shower was running. "Wait here," Lucas instructed, moving toward the bathroom. Before he could reach it, the water stopped. Moments later, a man emerged in a hotel robe, his dark hair damp, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass. His presence filled the room immediately, and Clara found herself taking an involuntary step backward. His slate blue eyes locked onto her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Can I help you?" His voice was deep, controlled, with an edge of authority that suggested he was used to getting answers. My reservation." Clara clutched her papers tighter. Lucas stepped forward. "Sir, there seems to be a confusion with the room assignment. Are you Mr. Nathan Blake?" "I am." His response was clipped, his attention still fixed on Clara. "This room was also assigned to Miss Thompson here." Nathan's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of interest crossing his features. "The hotel's mistake, I presume?" "Yes, sir. We'll sort this out immediately. Miss Thompson, if you'll come with me to the front desk." Clara turned to leave, but Nathan's voice stopped her. "Wait." He moved to the desk, pulled out his phone. "The conference tomorrow, you're one of the speakers?" She nodded, surprised he knew. "How did you—" "The papers you're strangling," he said, the ghost of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "They look like presentation materials." He paused, studying her. "You're the one presenting on cellular regeneration in marine organisms." Clara's eyes widened. "You've read the abstract?" "I make it my business to know about innovations that could change the world." He turned to Lucas. "Give us a moment, please." After the security guard stepped out, Nathan continued, "My company, Blake Industries, has been looking into biotechnology investments. Your research caught our attention months ago." Clara's mind spun. Blake Industries was a corporate giant, known for its strategic acquisitions and innovative technology investments, and its CEO was standing in front of her in a bathrobe. "I have a proposal," Nathan said, his tone businesslike despite his attire. "I'm here for a merger discussion that's running late. I'll be done in an hour. Have dinner with me. Tell me about your research." The invitation caught her off guard. "I should review my presentation. Consider it practice for tomorrow. Plus," he added, his expression softening slightly, It's the least I can do after accidentally stealing your room." Before Clara could respond, Lucas returned with a new room key, 1642, directly above. As she followed the security guard out, she found herself saying, "Dinner would be fine." An hour later, Clara stood in her new room, staring at her reflection. She changed into a black dress that her best friend Sophie had insisted she pack just in case. Her hands trembled slightly as she applied a touch of lipstick. This wasn't what she'd expected from her first night in New York. She'd planned to order room service and rehearse her presentation until she fell asleep. Instead, she was preparing to have dinner with one of the most powerful CEOs in the country. The knock on her door came precisely on time. Nathan had changed into a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. His hair was styled now, and something about his presence seemed even more commanding than before. "Shall we?" He offered his arm, and Clara took it, trying to ignore the electricity that seemed to spark at the contact. The restaurant was on the top floor, offering panoramic views of Central Park. As they were seated at a corner table, Clara couldn't help but notice how other diners glanced their way. Nathan seemed oblivious to the attention, his focus entirely on her. "Tell me," he said after ordering a bottle of wine, "what made you choose marine biology?" Clara found herself relaxing as she spoke about her passion. The ocean holds secrets we're only beginning to understand. Some species can regenerate entire limbs, heal from devastating injuries. If we could unlock those mechanisms— She caught herself starting to ramble. "So sorry, I tend to get carried away." "Don't apologize for passion," Nathan replied, his eyes intense. "It's rare to find someone who truly cares about their work." As the evening progressed, Clara discovered that beneath his corporate exterior, Nathan possessed a sharp wit and genuine curiosity. He asked insightful questions about her research, challenging her assumptions in ways that helped her see new angles. But there was something else, an undercurrent of tension that made her breath catch whenever their eyes met. She noticed how his fingers lingered when passing her the wine list, how his gaze sometimes dropped to her lips when she spoke. By the time dessert arrived, Clara felt slightly lightheaded, and it wasn't just from the wine. The city lights sparkled beyond the windows, and the rest of the restaurant had nearly emptied. "It's getting late," she said reluctantly. "I should prepare for tomorrow." Nathan nodded, but as they rode the elevator back to their floors, the air between them felt charged with unspoken possibilities. When they reached her floor, he caught her hand before she could step out. "Clara," the way he said her name made her shiver. "Thank you for dinner. You've given me a lot to think about." She smiled, trying to steady her racing heart. "Regarding potential investments?" Among other things, his thumb traced a small circle on her palm before releasing her hand. Back in her room, Clara pressed her forehead against the cool window, looking down at the city below. Tomorrow would be one of the most important days of her career, but all she could think about was the way Nathan had looked at her, the feeling of his hand on hers. She tried to push the thoughts away, to focus on her presentation. But as she finally drifted off to sleep, her dreams were filled with slate-blue eyes and the lingering sensation of electricity in her veins. Clara jolted awake at 3:00 a.m., her heart pounding. The presentation notes lay scattered across her bed, evidence of her late-night review session, but it wasn't her upcoming speech that had woken her. It was the lingering sensation of Nathan's touch in her dreams. She padded to the window, pressing her palm against the cool glass. New York sprawled below, a glittering maze of lights and possibilities. Somewhere in this building, perhaps directly beneath her feet, Nathan Blake was sleeping, or maybe, like her, he was awake, thinking about their dinner. "Focus," she whispered to herself. "Tomorrow is everything you've worked for." The morning arrived with cruel swiftness. Clara stood before her bathroom mirror, applying mascara with trembling hands. Her sapphire suit, another of Sophie's insisted upon purchases, fit perfectly. But her reflection showed the shadows under her eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide. A knock at her door made her jump, smudging her mascara. Cursing softly, she opened it to find a hotel staff member holding a sleek silver box tied with a black ribbon. Inside, she found a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny microscope. The note read, "For luck, though you won't need it." And Clara's fingers traced the charm, her throat tight with unexpected emotion. The gesture was thoughtful, personal. He'd actually listened when she'd talked about her childhood dream of getting her first microscope. The conference hall buzzed with anticipation. Clara took her place at the podium, scanning the crowd of distinguished scientists and researchers. Her heart nearly stopped when she spotted Nathan in the back row, his presence both reassuring and intensely distracting. As she began speaking, her initial nervousness melted away. This was her element, the culmination of years of research and dedication. She explained how certain marine organisms could regenerate damaged tissue, potentially revolutionizing human medical treatment. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. During the Q&A session, each answer she gave was met with approving nods from the panel, but it was the final question that changed everything. Dr. Thompson, a senior researcher, stood. "Your findings on cellular preservation in extreme conditions are fascinating. Have you considered the implications for cancer research?" Clara's mind raced. She hadn't included this angle in her presentation, but she'd spent countless nights exploring the possibility. As she detailed her theories, she caught Nathan leaning forward, his expression intense. After the session, colleagues swarmed her with questions and congratulations. Through the crowd, she saw Nathan speaking with several men in expensive suits, his gestures animated. When their eyes met across the room, the electricity from the previous night returned full force. Hours later, Clara finally escaped to the hotel's rooftop garden, needing a moment of solitude to process her success. The evening air carried the first hint of autumn, and the city lights created a private galaxy around her. "Impressive performance," Nathan's voice came from behind her. "You've caused quite a stir." She turned to find him approaching, his tie loosened, jacket discarded. Something about his casual appearance made him even more appealing. "The cancer research angle," he continued, joining her at the railing. "That wasn't in any of your published work." "It's still theoretical," Clara replied, aware of how close he was standing. "I didn't want to make claims without more data. But you've thought it through." "It wasn't a question. I watched you up there. You've explored every possibility, haven't you?" She nodded, surprised by his insight. "I can't help it. Every discovery leads to new questions, new possibilities. That's what makes you dangerous," he said softly. When she looked at him questioningly, he elaborated. "You're not just brilliant, Clara. You're passionate. That combination." He trailed off, his eyes tracking down to her wrist, where his gift glinted in the city light. "Thank you for the bracelet," she said. "It was unexpected. I'm full of surprises." His smile held a hint of something that made her pulse quicken. "Join me for a celebratory drink?" They ended up in his suite, which was significantly larger than hers. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city. But Clara barely noticed. Nathan moved to a small bar area, his movements precise as he prepared 2 glasses of whiskey. "To revolutionary discoveries," he said, handing her a glass. Their fingers brushed, and Clara felt that now familiar spark of electricity. "And to unexpected meetings," she added softly. They talked for hours about her research, his company's innovations, their childhoods, his privileged but lonely, hers modest but warm. As the night deepened, they moved closer together on the sofa, the space between them charged with unspoken tension. "You're different," Nathan said suddenly, his voice low, "from anyone I've ever met." Clara's breath caught as he reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch lingered on her cheek, and she found herself leaning into it. "Nathan," she whispered, but whatever she was going to say was lost as he closed the distance between them, his lips meeting hers with an intensity that made her head spin. The kiss deepened, and Clara felt herself being drawn into a whirlwind of sensation. His hands tangled in her hair, and she gripped his shoulders, anchoring herself as the world tilted on its axis. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. Clara's heart thundered in her chest. She'd never felt like this before. This overwhelming combination of desire and terror. "I don't want you to stop," she admitted. His eyes darkened at her words. "Are you sure?" She nodded, unable to voice the depth of what she was feeling. This wasn't just attraction. It was as if every cell in her body recognized something in him, called out for him. Nathan stood, pulling her up with him. He studied her face for a long moment, his expression intense. Then he kissed her again, slower this time, but with no less passion. His hands skimmed down her sides, leaving trails of fire in their wake. Clara's inexperience made her movements hesitant, but Nathan seemed to sense her uncertainty. He took his time, each touch designed to comfort as much as inflame. When her fingers fumbled with his shirt buttons, he caught her hands, pressing kisses to her palms. "We have all night," he murmured against her skin. They made their way to his bedroom, leaving a trail of clothing behind. Clara's nervousness returned as Nathan laid her on the bed. But the way he looked at her like she was precious and desirable, all at once chased away her fears. Later, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Clara's head resting on Nathan's chest, she felt both completely changed and utterly herself. His fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder, and she could feel his heartbeat gradually thetaing beneath her cheek. "Stay," he said quietly, just as sleep was beginning to claim her. It wasn't quite a question, but Clara heard the vulnerability in his voice. "Okay," she whispered back, snuggling closer. The last thing she registered before drifting off was Nathan pulling her tighter against him, as if afraid she might disappear. In that moment, wrapped in his warmth, Clara couldn't imagine being anywhere else. What she couldn't know, was that this night would change both their lives in ways neither could predict, as the city pulsed with life below them. The seeds of their future were already taking root, waiting to bloom into something neither of them had ever expected. Clara woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and an empty bed. The sheets beside her were cold, suggesting Nathan had been gone for some time. Her heart sank even as she tried to tell herself this was expected. What had she thought would happen? That one magical night would transform a powerful CEO into a romantic? A folded note on the bedside table caught her attention. Her name was written in strong, precise handwriting. "Clara, emergency board meeting called at 5 o'clock a.m. Didn't want to wake you. Last night was unexpected and extraordinary. Nathan." Brief, professional. Clara wasn't sure what she'd hoped for, but something inside her deflated. She gathered her clothes, trying to ignore the slight soreness that reminded her of everything that had happened just hours before. Back in her own room, Clara stood under the shower, letting hot water cascade over her. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Sophie, her best friend back in Boston. As she dried off, it rang again. "Finally!" Sophie's voice burst through the speaker. "I've been trying to reach you all morning. How did the presentation go?" Clara sank onto her bed. "It went really well, actually. Better than I expected. I hear a but coming." "What happened?" Clara's voice caught. "I met someone. Met someone as in I spent the night with him." Sophie's squeal made Clara hold the phone away from her ear. "Clara Thompson, I'm waiting for the right person. Who is he? Tell me everything." Clara's chest tightened. "Nathan Blake." Silence then. "Wait. Nathan Blake, as in Blake Industries? The Nathan Blake, who's on the cover of Business Weekly every other month?" "Yes." Holy Sophie paused. "Are you okay? Was it?" "It was perfect," Clara whispered, touching the silver bracelet she still wore. "He was perfect. Gentle, attentive." She swallowed hard. "And now he's gone." "Gone as in?" "Board meeting. He left a note." Clara's laugh sounded hollow. "What was I thinking, Sophie? Someone like him doesn't end up with someone like me. Hey, stop that. You're brilliant and beautiful, and if he can't see that..." A knock at the door interrupted them. Clara's heart leaped. "I have to go. Someone's here." She opened the door to find a hotel staff member with a garment bag and another silver box. "Compliments of Mr. Blake, ma'am." Inside the garment bag was a stunning navy blue dress that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The box contained a note and a first-class plane ticket back to Boston. "Dinner at Le Bernardin, wheat, 0 p.m. Let me make up for my abrupt departure. N." Clara's hands trembled as she called Sophie back. "He wants to have dinner." "See? Not gone at all. What are you going to do?" That question haunted Clara throughout the day as she attended the remaining conference sessions. Her eyes kept drifting to the empty seat where Nathan had watched her presentation yesterday. Every time the door opened, her heart jumped, but he never appeared. By evening, she'd made her decision. The dress fit perfectly, highlighting every curve while remaining elegantly understated. Clara didn't want to think about how he'd known her size. Le Bernardin's interior was all old-world luxury. The maître d' led her to a private alcove where Nathan waited, rising as she approached. His expression as he took in her appearance made her breath catch. "You look stunning," he said, helping her into her seat. "Though you always do." The tension between them was different now, charged with memories of the previous night. They made it through appetizers, discussing safe topics, the conference's final sessions, his board meeting, the unseasonably warm weather. Finally, during a lull between courses, Nathan spoke softly. "About last night." "We don't have to discuss it," Clara interrupted. "I understand what it was." His brow furrowed. "Do you?" "A beautiful moment. A memory to cherish. But not the beginning of anything." Nathan set down his wineglass carefully. "Is that what you want it to be?" Clara met his gaze. "Does it matter what I want?" "You're you. And I'm well. I'm going back to my lab in Boston tomorrow." "Clara." The way he said her name made her shiver. "I don't do this. Ever. Last night wasn't I don't bring women to my room. I don't send gifts. I don't arrange intimate dinners." "Then why?" "Because I can't stop thinking about you." His intensity pinned her in place. "Your brilliance. Your passion. The way you see the world. The way you felt in my arms." Clara's heart thundered. "Nathan, I have to go to Tokyo tomorrow. Crucial merger negotiations. I'll be there for at least 6 weeks." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "But when I return, I want to see you again." 6 weeks is a long time. "Too long," he agreed, "but it gives us both time to think. To be sure, this is what we want." The rest of dinner passed in a blur of excellent food and loaded glances. When they left the restaurant, Nathan's driver was waiting. The ride back to the hotel was silent, the space between them on the leather seat crackling with unspoken words. In the elevator, Nathan stood close enough that Clara could feel his warmth. But he didn't touch her, not until they reached her floor. Then, as the doors opened, he pulled her to him, kissing her with an intensity that made her knees weak. 6 weeks, he murmured against her lips. "Think about what you want, Clara, because when I come back, if you're willing, I want to explore whatever this is between us." Clara watched the elevator doors close, her fingers touching her tingling lips. Back in her room, she packed her belongings methodically, trying to process everything that had happened in the past 48 hours. The next morning, a car was waiting to take her to the airport. As she settled into her first-class seat, Clara touched the silver bracelet, wondering if the past 2 days had been real or some elaborate fantasy. 6 weeks' time to think, time to return to her normal life and decide if she was ready for whatever Nathan Blake might offer her. What Clara didn't know as her plane lifted off was that the decision had already been made for her. In her body, cells were already dividing, multiplying, creating new life. The consequences of that one passionate night would become apparent long before Nathan's return from Tokyo, changing both their lives forever. Back in Boston, Clara threw herself into her research, trying to ignore the way her heart jumped every time her phone buzzed. Nathan sent occasional messages, brief but thoughtful. A question about her research, a photo of Tokyo at sunset. Each one made her miss him more, even as she tried to convince herself that their connection couldn't possibly be as strong as it had felt. But as October turned to November, Clara began to notice subtle changes. Fatigue that coffee couldn't cure. Nausea that struck at odd hours. Her periods had always been irregular due to stress, so she didn't immediately realize she was late. It wasn't until Sophie pointed out that she'd turned green at the smell of their favorite coffee shop that the possibility struck her. Standing in her bathroom 3 weeks after leaving New York, Clara stared at a pregnancy test, watching as 2 pink lines appeared with crystal clarity. She took 5 more tests, each confirming what she already knew in her heart that night in New York. Hadn't just given her memories to cherish. It had created something far more permanent. Clara sat on her bathroom floor, her hand pressed to her still flat stomach as reality crashed over her. She was pregnant with Nathan Blake's child, and he was still in Tokyo, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. Twins. Dr. Emily Harper's voice seemed to echo in the small examination room. "Do you see here?" She pointed to the ultrasound screen where two distinct shapes were clearly visible. Both appear to be developing normally. Clara gripped the edges of the examination table, her knuckles white. One baby had been overwhelming enough to process, but twins? Her mind spun with the implications. "I'm prescribing prenatal vitamins," Dr. Harper continued, her kind eyes studying Clara's pale face. "With a multiple pregnancy, we'll need to monitor you more closely. Do you have a support system in place?" "Yes," Clara answered automatically, thinking of Sophie, who'd been her rock these past weeks. "I mean, sort of. And the father?" Clara's throat tightened. Nathan's last message had arrived that morning, a simple "missing our conversations" that had made her heart ache. He still had 2 weeks left in Tokyo, completely unaware that he was going to be a father to twins. "He doesn't know yet," Clara admitted. "Doctor." Harper nodded without judgment. "You're about 8 weeks along. Take some time to process this, but don't wait too long to tell him. Multiple pregnancies can be more challenging." Outside the clinic, Clara sat in her car, pressing her forehead against the steering wheel. The ultrasound photos lay on the passenger seat, tangible proof that this wasn't some elaborate dream. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "How did it go? Need me to come over?" Clara managed to drive home, moving on autopilot. Sophie was waiting on her doorstep with takeout and a concerned expression. "Spill," Sophie demanded, once they were inside. "What did the doctor say?" Clara wordlessly handed over the ultrasound photos. Sophie's eyes widened. "Holy are those twins." Clara sank onto her couch. "I'm having twins, Sophie. What am I going to do?" "First, you're going to eat something." Sophie unpacked containers of soup and crackers, the only things Clara could keep down lately. "Then we're going to figure this out together." As Clara sipped her soup, Sophie paced the living room. "You have to tell him. I mean, he's like a billionaire, right? He can provide for them." Clara set down her spoon. "That's exactly what I don't want. I'm not after his money. This isn't about pride, Clara. These are your children, his children. They deserve everything you can both give them." Later that night, after Sophie left, Clara stood at her apartment window, looking out at the Boston skyline. Her hand rested on her stomach, trying to comprehend that 2 tiny lives were growing inside her, her beautiful, complicated children, created during that one passionate night. Her laptop sat open on her desk, email drafted but unsent. "Nathan, we need to talk. It's important." Too casual for news this life-changing. She deleted it. At work the next day, Clara struggled to focus on her research. The lab, usually her sanctuary, felt foreign. Every smell seemed amplified, making her nauseated. During a crucial experiment, she had to rush to the bathroom twice. "Are you sure you're okay?" "Doctor," Henry Carter, her mentor, asked with concern. "You've seemed off lately." "Just a stomach bug," Clara lied, hating herself for it. Soon she'd have to tell the university. Her research fellowship had another year left. Would they let her complete it? Would they see her as less dedicated once they knew? That evening, she received another text from Nathan. "Tokyo skyline at night made me think of our evening on the roof." Attached was a photo of glittering city lights. Clara's eyes filled with tears. How could something so beautiful have led to such complicated consequences? She spent the weekend drafting and deleting messages. Each attempt felt wrong. "Remember our night together? Well, surprise. Too flippant. I need to inform you of something regarding our encounter too formal. I'm pregnant with your twins, and terrified too vulnerable." On Monday morning, Clara woke to intense nausea. As she knelt on her bathroom floor, her body heaving, the reality of her situation hit her full force. She couldn't handle this alone anymore. She needed to tell him. Her hands shaking, she picked up her phone and dialed the number he'd given her before leaving for Tokyo. It was evening there. Would he even answer? 1 ring. 2. 3. "Clara?" Nathan's voice, surprised but pleased, sent shivers down her spine. "This is unexpected. I'm sorry to call without warning," she began, her heart pounding. Are you alone? A pause. She heard movement, a door closing. I am now. Is everything all right? You sound… I'm pregnant. She blurted out. Then, before he could respond, with twins. They're yours. I just found out about the twins part, but I've known about the pregnancy for a week, and I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. And I understand if you don't want… Clara, his voice cut through her rambling. Take a breath. She did, realizing she was crying. The line was so quiet she could hear his breathing. Are you sure? He finally asked, his voice carefully controlled. Yes. I have ultrasound photos. 8 weeks. The timing. There hasn't been anyone else. Ever. Another long pause. Clara's heart felt like it might burst from her chest. I'm booking a flight back, Nathan said, his tone shifting to something she couldn't read. We need to discuss this in person. But your merger can wait. This is more important. He paused again. Are you and the babies healthy? The concern in his voice made fresh tears fall. Yes, everything looks good so far. Good. He took an audible breath. I'll have my assistant arrange everything. Expect a call within the hour. Nathan, Clara whispered. I'm not telling you this to trap you or demand anything. I just thought you should know. I know. His voice softened slightly. We'll figure this out together. Clara. I promise. After they hung up, Clara sat on her bed, trembling. In less than 24 hours, she would face Nathan again, the man who'd given her an unforgettable night, who'd sparked something in her soul, who was now inextricably linked to her future through the tiny lives growing inside her. Her phone buzzed. Nathan's assistant, efficient as promised. First-class tickets, car service, a suite at the Four Seasons Boston. Clara started to protest, but the assistant gently insisted these were Mr. Blake's explicit instructions. That night, Clara barely slept. She alternated between bouts of nausea and periods of anxious planning. By morning, dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her resolve had strengthened. Whatever Nathan's reaction might be, she would face it with dignity. These babies were a gift, unexpected but precious, and she would protect them no matter what. As dawn broke over Boston, Clara watched the sunrise, her hands cradling her still flat stomach. We'll be okay, she whispered to her unborn children. No matter what happens with your father, we'll be okay. But as her car arrived to take her to the hotel where she would meet Nathan, Clara couldn't quite believe her own words. Everything was about to change, and she had no idea if it would be for better or worse. The Four Seasons presidential suite offered a panoramic view of Boston Common, but Nathan Blake wasn't looking at the scenery. He stood at the window, still in his travel clothes, his usual composed demeanor showing subtle cracks. The 20-hour flight from Tokyo had given him plenty of time to think. Yet he felt no closer to knowing exactly what to say when Clara arrived. His phone buzzed a message from his head of security. Miss. Thompson's car approaching the hotel. Nathan's jaw tightened. After their phone conversation, he'd immediately arranged for discreet security to watch over her. The thought of her carrying his children, vulnerable and alone these past weeks, had sparked an unfamiliar protective instinct. The soft knock at the door made him turn sharply. Clara stood in the doorway, looking both familiar and somehow different. Her chestnut hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face makeup-free and slightly pale. She wore a loose-fitting blouse that revealed no hint of her condition, but Nathan found his eyes drawn to her midsection anyway. You look tired, she said, surprising him. Of all the ways to start this conversation, she was concerned about him. 20-hour flight, he replied, moving closer. You look nauseated. She offered a weak smile. Morning sickness is badly named. It should be called all-day sickness. The casual mention of her pregnancy hung in the air between them. Nathan gestured to the living area of the suite. Sit, please. Can I get you anything? Water? Tea? Water would be good. As he poured from a crystal pitcher, Nathan noticed her hands fidgeting with the silver microscope charm. She was still wearing his bracelet. Something inside him eased slightly at that observation. I have the ultrasound photos, Clara said quietly, pulling an envelope from her bag. If you want to see them. Nathan took the envelope with steady hands that betrayed none of his inner turmoil. The images were grainy but unmistakable, two distinct shapes, two tiny heartbeats frozen on paper. "The doctor says they're developing normally," Clara continued, filling the silence. "I'm due in early June." "Twins," Nathan said softly, still staring at the photos. "Did you know this runs in your family?" Clara shook her head. "No, it was quite a surprise. Like everything about us seems to be—" He finally looked up at her. "Why did you wait a week to tell me?" She flinched slightly at his tone. "I needed time to process it myself, and you were in the middle of crucial negotiations. I didn't want to." "To what? Disrupt my business dealings?" An edge crept into his voice. "These are my children, Clara. You should have told me immediately." "I know." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I was scared." The vulnerability in her admission deflated his anger. Nathan sat beside her on the sofa, close enough to catch the faint scent of her shampoo, the same one from that night in New York. "What are you scared of?" he asked, gentler now. "Everything." Clara's laugh held no humor. "My career, my fellowship, my future, what this means for the babies. What it means for us, if there even is an us. Of course there's an us." The words came out more forcefully than he intended. "Clara, look at me." When she met his gaze, her blue eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I don't do anything halfway," he said. "Not business, not personal matters, and certainly not family. These are my children. You're their mother. That makes you family." Nathan paused. "Marry me." Clara stared at him, shock written across her features. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, more firmly this time. "It's the logical solution. The children need stability, a proper family structure. You need support and security." "That's not—" Clara stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "That's not why I told you. I don't need you to save me." Nathan followed her, his reflection appearing beside hers in the glass. "This isn't about saving you. It's about doing what's right for our children." "Our children," she echoed, pressing a hand to her stomach. "It sounds so strange still. We barely know each other." "We know enough." He turned her gently to face him. "I know you're brilliant, dedicated, and stronger than you realize. I know that night in New York wasn't just physical attraction. There was a connection neither of us expected. And I know that seeing those ultrasound photos," he paused, something raw entering his expression, "I already feel protective of them. Of you." "That's not love," Clara whispered. "Maybe not yet," he agreed. "But it could be. The foundation is there, Clara. We can build on it." She studied his face, searching for something. "This feels like a business transaction, because I'm approaching it logically. Would you prefer grand romantic gestures when we have real issues to consider?" His hand moved to cover hers where it rested on her stomach. "Think about it practically. Marriage provides legal protection for all of us. It gives the children stability. It allows me to take care of you properly during the pregnancy without raising questions or speculation. And what about after? What kind of marriage would it be?" Nathan's expression softened. "Whatever we make of it, I'm not proposing a cold arrangement, Clara. I'm suggesting we give ourselves time to let these feelings develop naturally, while ensuring our children have the best possible start in life." Clara's free hand came up to touch his chest, right over his heart. The great Nathan Blake, planning a future he can't control. "I always have contingency plans." His lips quirked slightly. "But you've already disrupted every plan I had. Maybe that's not a bad thing." She was quiet for a long moment, her hand still pressed to his chest. "If, and this is a big if, I agree, I have conditions." "Name them." "I keep my work. My research is important to me." "Of course. I want a real relationship, not just a paper marriage. If we do this, we both have to be willing to try, to be vulnerable, to possibly fail." Nathan's hand tightened over hers. "Agreed. And I want honesty. Complete honesty about everything." Something flickered in his eyes, but he nodded. "No secrets." Clara took a deep breath. "Then yes, I'll marry you." The words hung between them for a moment before Nathan pulled her into a kiss that was both gentle and passionate. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. "I know this isn't conventional," he murmured, "but I promise you won't regret it." Later that evening, as they sat discussing practical arrangements over room service, the only food Clara could stomach, Nathan's phone buzzed repeatedly with messages about the Tokyo merger. "You should go back," Clara said, watching him ignore another call. "The merger is important. This is important." But she could see the tension in his shoulders. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised. "Go finish what you started. It gives us time to plan, to tell our families, to do this right." Nathan studied her for a long moment before nodding. "1 week. I'll have everything wrapped up in 1 week." As he walked her to her car later, his hand resting protectively on her lower back, Clara felt simultaneously terrified and strangely peaceful. Nothing about this was normal or expected, but somehow it felt right. 1 week, she echoed, letting him help her into the car. 1 week, he confirmed, then hesitated before adding softly, "Take care of our family." Clara watched him disappear into the hotel, her hand absently touching her stomach. Family. They were going to be a family. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. As her car pulled away from the hotel, Clara didn't notice the black SUV that subtly fell into place, 3 cars behind Nathan's security team following, at a discreet distance. She was too lost in thoughts of the future, a future that had transformed completely in the space of a single day. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. Clara was in her lab, pipetting samples for her latest experiment, when Sophie burst through the door waving her phone. "Have you seen this?" Her friend's face was flushed with excitement and concern. Clara glanced at the screen and felt her stomach drop. The headline screamed across the business news website. Blake Industries CEO's sudden engagement. Who is the mysterious fiancé? Beneath was a grainy photo of her and Nathan outside the Four Seasons, his hand protectively guiding her into the car. The article speculated wildly about her identity and their relationship, with anonymous sources claiming everything from a whirlwind romance to a calculated business merger. "How did they find out?" Clara whispered, sinking into her lab chair. Her phone buzzed Nathan calling from Tokyo. "I'm handling it," he said without preamble. "My PR team is preparing a statement. Nathan, there are reporters outside my apartment building." A sharp intake of breath. "Pack a bag. I'm having security move you to a secure location until I return. I can't just leave. I have work, experiments." "Clara," his voice softened slightly, "please let me protect you. All of you." She glanced down at her still flat stomach, thinking of the twins. "Okay." Within an hour, Nathan's head of security, Daniel Peterson, arrived at her lab tall, with military-precise movements. He efficiently orchestrated her exit through a back entrance while his team ran interference with the waiting press. The secure location turned out to be a luxury penthouse in a discreet building with private security. Clara stood in the vast living room, feeling out of place among the modern furnishings and spectacular harbor views. "Mr. Blake had this prepared as soon as you agreed to marry him," Daniel explained. Showing her the security features, he anticipated the media attention. "Of course he did," Clara murmured. "Always planning, always controlling." Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing calls from unknown numbers, messages from old classmates, even emails from distant relatives. The only one she answered was Sophie, who promised to water her plants and bring her more clothes. That evening, as Clara watched the sunset over the harbor, her laptop pinged with a news alert. Nathan's PR team had released their statement. Nathan Blake and Dr. Clara Thompson are pleased to confirm their engagement. They ask for privacy during this joyful time as they begin their life together. Short, professional, no mention of the babies. They'd agreed to keep the pregnancy private as long as possible, but seeing the sanitized version of their story made Clara's chest tight. Her phone lit up with Nathan's face. "Did you see the statement?" "Yes." Very succinct. "I wanted to say more." He sounded tired. "But until I'm back and we can face this together." "I know." Clara curled up on the massive sofa. "How are the merger negotiations?" "Complicated, but progressing." He paused. "How are you feeling?" "The morning sickness is better, actually. The private chef you arranged has been making these amazing ginger-infused meals." "Good." Another pause. "I miss you." The admission, so quietly spoken, made Clara's heart skip. It's only been 3 days. 3 days too long. Background noise filtered through voices, papers shuffling. I have to go. Another meeting. But Clara. Yes? I meant what I said. About trying. About making this real. After they hung up, Clara found herself touching the silver microscope charm again. It had become a habit, a tangible reminder that this wasn't all a dream. The next morning brought fresh challenges. Dr. Carter, her mentor, called for an urgent meeting Clara had to attend virtually from her gilded cage. The board is concerned, he said without preamble. Your engagement to Blake has raised questions about conflicts of interest. Given his company's investments in biotechnology, my research has nothing to do with Nathan, Clara protested. I know that, but perception matters in academia. Dr. Carter Sile, they're reviewing your fellowship. Clara felt the floor tilt beneath her. The fellowship was everything, her research, her future career. They can't do that. I'm fighting for you. Your work is groundbreaking. But Clara, he hesitated. The timing of this engagement, it seems sudden. Are you asking if I'm marrying Nathan for research funding? Are you? The question stung, especially coming from her mentor. No. I'm marrying him because she stopped, unable to explain the complex truth. Because it's right, she finished lamely. For both of us. After the call, Clara paced the penthouse, feeling trapped. She understood Nathan's need to protect her, but this gilded isolation was suffocating. She needed her lab, her work, her normal life. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, the truth about Blake's fiancée, exclusive interview. 6 figures. Your story, your words. Clara blocked the number, but others followed. Journalists had somehow gotten her private contact information. Each offer was more tempting than the last, especially with her fellowship in jeopardy. That night, unable to sleep, Clara found herself in the penthouse home office. Nathan's presence lingered here, everything precisely arranged, power barely contained. On the desk, she noticed a folder she hadn't seen before. Inside was a prenuptial agreement, clearly prepared in advance. Clara's hands trembled as she read through it. The terms were generous, almost extravagantly so. But seeing their relationship reduced to legal clauses made her feel hollow. Her phone lit up. Nathan. I was going to discuss the prenup when I returned, he said when she told him what she'd found. I wanted to do it in person. It's fine. I understand. It's practical. Clara, she could hear the strain in his voice. Don't shut down on me. Talk to me. They're reviewing my fellowship, she burst out. Because of you. Because of us. Everything I've worked for, I'll handle it. No. The word came out sharper than intended. That's exactly what they're worried about, your influence, your money. I need to handle this myself. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Nathan spoke softly. Tell me what you need. I need. Clara's voice caught. I need to know this isn't a mistake. That we're not rushing into something that will destroy both our lives. Do you want to end it? No. The answer came instantly, surprising her with its certainty. No, I don't. Despite everything, when I think about facing all this without you, then we'll figure it out together, his voice strengthened. One more day of negotiations, then I'm coming home. Home. The word echoed in Clara's mind, long after they hung up. Home had always been her tiny apartment, her lab, her ordered world of research and discovery. Now home was becoming something else, something tied to a man who both thrilled and terrified her, and the tiny lives they'd created together. Clara rested her hand on her stomach, feeling the slight swell that was just beginning to show. What do you think, little ones? She whispered. Are we doing the right thing? No answer came, of course, but as she watched the city lights twinkle beyond the windows, Clara felt a strange peace settle over her. Nothing about this was simple or easy. But then again, the most important things in life rarely were. Nathan's private jet landed at Logan International Airport at midnight. Clara watched from the window of his Bentley as the plane taxied to a stop, her heart racing. After a week of phone calls and texts, of navigating press scrutiny and professional challenges alone, he was finally back. The car's interior felt charged with tension as Nathan slid in beside her. He looked exhausted, his usual impeccable appearance showing signs of strain, but his eyes were alert as they fixed on her. "You're showing," he said softly, his gaze dropping to where her loose sweater couldn't quite hide her small bump. Clara's hand automatically went to her stomach. "Just barely. The doctor says it's normal to show earlier with twins." Instead of responding, Nathan reached out and covered her hand with his. The simple gesture felt more intimate than any phone conversation they'd had over the past week. "The merger?" she asked, trying to steady her racing pulse. Completed, his thumb traced circles on her hand, successfully. "But that's not what I want to talk about." The car moved smoothly through Boston's empty streets. Clara had expected to return to the penthouse, but they turned toward the waterfront instead. "Where are we going?" "Home," Nathan said simply. The car pulled up to one of Boston's most prestigious residential buildings. Clara had passed it many times, admiring its classic architecture and spectacular harbor views. Now, as they rode the private elevator to the top floor, she realized this was to be her new reality. The penthouse apartment sprawled over 2 floors, all gleaming hardwood and floor-to-ceiling windows. But what caught Clara's attention were the subtle signs of preparation. Fresh flowers in her favorite colors, a fully equipped home office with specialized ventilation for basic lab work, and a room clearly intended as a nursery, though currently empty. "When did you do all this?" "While I was in Tokyo." Nathan moved behind her, his hands resting lightly on her shoulders. "I had the building bought and renovated. Security is state-of-the-art, and there's a private entrance through the garage." Clara turned to face him. "You bought an entire building?" "It was necessary." His expression was earnest. "The penthouse you were staying in was temporary. We needed something permanent, something secure." Nathan Clara stepped back, needing space to think. "This is overwhelming." "Too much." "Yes." "No." "I don't know." She ran a hand through her hair. "Everything's happening so fast. The press, the fellowship review, and now this." Nathan's jaw tightened. "About the fellowship. I made some calls." "You what?" Clara's voice sharpened. "After I specifically asked you not to interfere?" "I didn't interfere directly. I simply had my legal team review the university's bylaws regarding conflicts of interest." He moved to the kitchen, loosening his tie. "There's no legal basis for revoking your fellowship." "That's not the point." Clara followed him, anger building. "I need to handle this myself. My work, my reputation, they have to stand on their own merits." Nathan poured himself a drink, his movements precise. "Your work does stand on its own merits. But you're not just Dr. Thompson anymore. You're going to be Mrs. Blake. That comes with certain complications and certain advantages." Clara's laugh was bitter. "Is that what you think? I want to use your name? Your influence?" "Of course not." He set down his glass harder than necessary. "I think you're brilliant and capable. But you're also carrying my children, and that makes your well-being my responsibility." "Your responsibility?" Clara repeated slowly. "Is that what this is? A responsibility?" Nathan moved toward her, but Clara held up a hand to stop him. "Don't. Just don't." She walked to the windows, looking out at the harbor lights. The view was beautiful, but all she could think about was how far removed this was from her simple apartment, her independent life. "I had another offer today," she said quietly. "From a journalist. 7 figures this time for an exclusive about our relationship." She heard Nathan's sharp intake of breath. "Clara." "I didn't take it, obviously." She turned back to him. "But do you know what tempted me? Not the money. The chance to tell my own story in my own words. Because right now, everyone's telling it for me. The gold digger scientist. The calculated social climber. The mysterious woman who trapped Boston's most eligible bachelor." Nathan's expression softened. "What is our story, Clara, in your words?" The question caught her off guard. She looked at him, really looked at him. Despite his exhaustion, he was still breathtakingly handsome, still the man who'd drawn her in with his intensity, his intelligence, his hidden depths. "We're 2 people," she said slowly, "who had one perfect night, who created something unexpected and beautiful, who are trying to do the right thing, even if we're not sure what that is." Nathan crossed the room to her, and this time she didn't stop him. His hands framed her face, gentle but sure. "Here's my version," he said softly. "You walked into the wrong hotel room and into my life. You challenged every assumption I had about relationships, about control, about love. You're carrying our children, and instead of asking for anything, you're fighting to maintain your independence. It's infuriating and admirable, and exactly why I'm falling for you." Clara's breath caught. "Falling for me?" "Yes." His thumbs brushed her cheeks. "This isn't just responsibility, Clara. Yes, I want to protect you, provide for you, make your life easier. But I also want to wake up next to you, debate with you, watch you change the world with your research. Even if I fight you every step of the way." A smile touched his lips. "Especially then. I've never wanted easy. I've wanted real." Clara leaned into him, letting his warmth seep into her. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of you, but of losing myself in all of this. In your world. Then we'll build our own world." Nathan's hand drifted to her stomach. "One where you can be both Dr. Thompson and Mrs. Blake. Where our children can be proud of both their parents." They stood there for a long moment, the city twinkling beyond the windows, their breathing synchronizing. Finally, Clara spoke. "The nursery needs 2 cribs. Nathan's laugh rumbled through his chest. "Already ordered, along with everything else we might need." "Of course you did." Clara smiled, despite herself. "Always prepared." "Not for you," he murmured, pulling her closer. "You're the one variable I can't predict. And somehow that's exactly what I need." As they stood together in their new home, Clara realized that perhaps this was what love looked like. Not a perfect fairy tale, but a choice to face challenges together, to build something new, something that honored both who they were and who they could become. Outside, a new day was dawning over Boston Harbor, painting the sky in shades of promise. Clara woke to urgent voices in the next room. Through the bedroom's partially open door, she could hear Nathan speaking in the controlled tone that barely masked his anger. "How long have you known about this?" A pause. And then, "Nobody thought to verify the numbers before the merger?" Another pause. "Get me everything. Now." Clara sat up, her hand automatically going to her growing baby bump. At 12 weeks, she was definitely showing. Though loose clothing still concealed her condition from the public, Nathan appeared in the doorway, his expression dark. When he saw she was awake, he visibly tried to soften his features. "I'm sorry if I woke you. Is everything okay?" He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. "The Tokyo merger. There are discrepancies in the financial reports, things that should have been caught." Clara patted the bed beside her. After a moment's hesitation, Nathan sat down, his shoulders tense. Someone on their end falsified data, made the company look more valuable than it is. "Can you break off the merger?" "It's already done. The announcement goes public today." He checked his watch. "In 3 hours." Clara reached for his hand. "What are you going to do?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed again. The caller ID read Ethan Marshall, his head of legal affairs. "Marshall, talk to me." Nathan's grip tightened on Clara's hand as he listened. "No, don't release the statement yet. I want to review everything first." After he hung up, Clara studied his face. "Tell me how I can help." Nathan turned to her, surprise flickering across his features. "This isn't your problem to solve. We're getting married, remember? Your problems are my problems." She squeezed his hand. "Besides, I'm pretty good at analyzing data." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "That you are." He hesitated, then added, "But you have your own challenges to deal with. The fellowship review is tomorrow." "I know, but I've prepared my defense, and worrying won't change anything." Clara shifted closer to him. "Let me help, Nathan. Let me be part of your world like you're becoming part of mine." Something in his expression shifted, softened. He pulled out his tablet, pulling up a complex series of financial reports. "Look at these numbers. Tell me what you see." Clara spent the next hour analyzing the data, her scientific training, helping her spot patterns that others might miss. Nathan watched her work, occasionally answering questions or providing context. Here, she said finally, pointing to a series of transactions. These patterns don't make sense unless they're covering something up. Nathan's expression hardened again. The question is, who knew? Clara bit her lip. You think someone inside Blake Industries was involved? The timing is too perfect. He stood, pacing to the window. The merger, our engagement hitting the news, someone's trying to take advantage of the chaos. Or create more of it, Clara said quietly. Nathan turned to her sharply. What do you mean? Think about it. The press finding out about our engagement so quickly, the sudden fellowship review, and now this. It feels coordinated. Before Nathan could respond, his phone rang again. The screen showed Samuel Wright, his chief financial officer. Wright. Nathan's voice was clipped. What have you found? Clara watched Nathan's face darken as he listened. When he hung up, his hands were clenched into fists. Victor Hayes, he said, naming his main competitor in the merger. He's been working with someone inside my company. They're trying to force a stock crash when the merger announcement hits. Can you prove it? Not yet, but his phone buzzed with a text. As he read it, all color drained from his face. Nathan, what is it? He handed her the phone. The message was from an unknown number, accompanied by a photo of Clara entering her doctor's office the previous week. The text read, Congratulations on the babies. Twins, right? Shame if the press found out before you were ready. Clara felt her blood run cold. How? They've been watching you. Nathan's voice was deadly quiet. Using you to get to me. Nathan. He was already dialing. Daniel, increase security on Clara immediately. No one gets near her without my direct approval. And find out who sent that message. When he ended the call, Clara stood, moving to him. We need to think this through carefully. There's nothing to think through. His eyes blazed with controlled fury. They threatened you, our children. They crossed a line. Exactly what they wanted you to do. Clara placed her hands on his chest, feeling his racing heart. They're trying to provoke you into making a mistake. Don't give them that satisfaction. Nathan covered her hands with his. I can't risk your safety. Then don't. But don't let them manipulate you either. She met his gaze steadily. We have 3 hours until the merger announcement. Let's use them. Something shifted in Nathan's expression, pride, mixed with something deeper. He pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. What's your suggestion, Doctor? Thompson? For the next 2 hours, they worked together. Clara's analytical mind complementing Nathan's strategic expertise. They discovered more discrepancies, traced money trails, and slowly built a case that couldn't be ignored. When Ethan Marshall arrived with the legal team, he found them surrounded by data displays and empty coffee cups, herbal tea for Clara. We have a plan, Nathan announced, his arm around Clara's waist, and a way to turn this against them. As they outlined their strategy, Clara watched Nathan in his element, commanding, brilliant, unstoppable. But she also noticed how he kept her close, included her in every decision, valued her input. Just before the merger announcement was due, Nathan pulled Clara aside. Are you sure about this? Once we move forward, there's no going back. Our lives will be under even more scrutiny. Clara touched the silver microscope charm on her bracelet. I'm sure about us. The rest we'll handle together. Nathan's kiss was fierce, passionate, full of promise and protection. When they broke apart, his hand rested on her bump. I love you, he said quietly. Both of you. All of you. It was the first time he'd said those words. Clara's heart soared, even as fear flickered through her. I love you too, she whispered back. Now let's go show them why they shouldn't have underestimated us. As they walked into the conference room where the press waited, Clara felt Nathan's strength beside her, matching her own. They were no longer just two people thrown together by circumstance. They were partners, facing whatever came next, as one. The cameras flashed. Questions flew. But Clara stood tall beside Nathan as he stepped up to the podium. Whatever happened next would change everything, but she was ready. They both were. The aftermath of Nathan's press conference exploded across every major financial network. Clara watched from their penthouse as the headlines scrolled across the screens. Blake Industries exposes massive fraud. His industry's stock in freefall. SEC launches investigation into failed merger. Nathan stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows. Phone pressed to his ear as he dealt with the fallout. His reflection showed the toll of the past 24 hours, but his voice remained steady, authoritative. "Yes, we're cooperating fully with the investigation," he said into the phone. "No. We won't be making additional statements at this time." Clara's own phone buzzed with a message from Sophie. "Your fiancé just caused an earthquake on Wall Street. You okay?" Before she could respond, another call came through Dr. Carter. With everything happening, she'd almost forgotten about her fellowship review. "Clara," her mentor's voice was warm. "The board has reached a decision." She held her breath, feeling Nathan's attention shift to her despite his ongoing call. "They're maintaining your fellowship, Dr." Carter continued, with some additional oversight protocols in place, but essentially unchanged. Relief flooded through her. What changed their minds? "Your work speaks for itself. And," he paused, "your handling of the press conference today was impressive. You showed integrity under pressure. That matters in academia as much as in business." After she hung up, Nathan ended his own call and moved to her side. "Good news?" Clara nodded, leaning into him. "The fellowship is safe, though I'm not sure how much lab work I'll get done with all this chaos." About that, Nathan's arm tightened around her. "Hayes's people are already trying to spin this. They're going to come after us personally next." "Let them try." Clara's voice was fierce. "We have nothing to hide." Nathan turned her to face him. "Clara, they know about the twins. It's only a matter of time before—" A breaking news alert cut him off. On the screen, Victor Hayes stood at his own podium, his expression grave. "While we investigate these baseless allegations," Hayes was saying, "we must question the timing. Mr. Blake's sudden engagement to a young scientist, followed by these attacks on our company's integrity, one might wonder about his true motivations." Clara felt Nathan tense beside her. Hayes continued, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Is this merger sabotage perhaps to distract from more personal matters? Our sources suggest congratulations may be in order for more than just an engagement." Nathan's phone erupted with calls. Clara's email inbox began flooding with press inquiries. Their secret was out. "I'm so sorry," Nathan began, but Clara stopped him with a kiss. "No apologies," she said firmly. "We knew this might happen. Now we face it together." His expression softened as he touched her visible bump. "Together," he agreed, then with a hint of his usual confidence. "And Hayes won't know what hit him." They spent the next hours in Nathan's home office, working with his PR team to craft their response. Clara insisted on being part of every decision, refusing to be sidelined. "We control the narrative," she said, pacing the office. "We show them that we're not ashamed or hiding anything." Nathan watched her with a mixture of pride and concern. "You understand what this means? Your privacy, your work." "My work stands on its own merits," Clara replied. "And our children deserve parents who face challenges head-on, not hiding in shadows." The statement they finally released was simple but powerful, accompanied by a photo of them together, Clara's hand resting naturally on her bump. Nathan Blake and Dr. Clara Thompson joyfully confirm they are expecting twins. While they had hoped to share this news in their own time, they refused to let others use their personal happiness as a weapon. Dr. Thompson continues her groundbreaking research, while Mr. Blake remains focused on protecting his company's integrity. They ask for privacy during this special time. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Some outlets praised their honesty and poise. Others spun wild theories about timing and motives. Through it all, Clara and Nathan remained united, stronger together than apart. Late that night, as they lay in bed, Clara felt the first flutter of movement inside her. She grabbed Nathan's hand, placing it on the spot. "I don't feel anything," he said softly. "Not yet, but soon." Clara studied his face in the darkness. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," he admitted. "Not of Hayes or the press, but of being a father. Of failing them. Or you." The great Nathan Blake admitting fear, she smiled gently. "That's why I love you, you know. These moments when you let me see beneath the armor." He pulled her closer. "You've been incredible through all of this. Most people would have run screaming from the chaos I brought into your life. Chaos? Clara laughed softly. I work with unpredictable cellular reactions all day. This is just a different kind of experiment. Nathan's hand remained on her stomach, protective and reverent. Hayes will keep coming after us. He's desperate now, which makes him dangerous. Let him come, Clara said fiercely. We're stronger than he knows. As if in agreement, she felt another flutter of movement. This time Nathan's eyes widened. Was that? Clara nodded, tears pricking her eyes. In this quiet moment, the outside world with all its complications seemed to fade away. They were just a family experiencing one of life's small miracles together. I had my doubts, Nathan said suddenly. Not about you or the babies, but about myself. About whether I could be the man you deserve. The father they need. And now I know that together we can handle anything. He kissed her softly. You've shown me that strength isn't about control. It's about trust. About letting someone else in. Clara curled into him, feeling safe despite the storm raging outside their bubble. Promise me something. Anything. No matter what Hayes throws at us next, we face it as equals. No more trying to protect me by keeping me in the dark. Nathan was quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing circles on her bump. I promise. No more secrets. No more lone wolf decisions. As they drifted off to sleep, Clara's mind wandered to tomorrow's challenges. Hayes wouldn't give up easily. The press would continue their speculation. Her research would face even more scrutiny. But for now, in Nathan's arms, feeling their babies move beneath his hand, she was exactly where she needed to be. They had chosen their path, not the easy one, but the right one. Together. The city lights twinkled beyond their windows, a reminder of the world waiting to test them again tomorrow. But tonight, in this moment, they were stronger than any force that might try to tear them apart. The flash drive arrived in an unmarked envelope, delivered to Clara's lab by courier. Inside was a simple note. Your fiancé isn't who you think he is. A friend. Clara stared at the small device, her protective instincts warring with curiosity. At 16 weeks pregnant, her maternal instincts had become a constant presence, making her question everything that might affect their family. She called Nathan. Don't plug it in, he said immediately. Our tech team needs to check it for malware first. It's from Hayes, isn't it? A heavy pause. Probably. He's getting desperate. The SEC investigation is closing in. 2 hours later, Clara sat in Nathan's office at Blake Industries, watching as his security team analyzed the drive's contents. Nathan stood behind her chair, his presence both protective and tense. It's clean, the head technician announced. But there's only one file, a video. Nathan's hands tightened on Clara's shoulders. Play it. The screen flickered to life, showing a younger Nathan in what appeared to be a boardroom. The timestamp showed a date from 8 years ago. He was speaking to someone off camera. His voice cold and calculated. The company's worthless now, young Nathan was saying. Their CEO's death was unfortunate, but it gives us the perfect opportunity. Buy them out while the stock's low, strip the assets, and eliminate the competition. The video cut to another scene, this one from a different meeting. Their employees? Not our concern? Business isn't about sentimentality. Clara felt Nathan's grip become almost painful. She reached up, covering his hand with hers. Enough, he said roughly. The technician stopped the playback. When they were alone, Clara turned to face him. Talk to me. Nathan moved to the window, his back rigid. That was from the Carter Tech acquisition. One of my first major deals as CEO. Hayes was involved, he wanted Carter Tech too. Nathan's reflection showed a flash of old pain. The CEO, Thomas Carter, was a mentor to both of us. When he died suddenly of a heart attack, you took advantage of the situation. Clara finished quietly. I was different then. He turned to face her. Ruthless. Focused only on winning, on proving myself worthy of my father's legacy. What happened to the company? I did exactly what I said in that video. Bought it cheap, sold off the valuable parts, laid off most of the employees. His laugh was bitter. Hayes is trying to show you who I really am. Clara stood, moving to him despite her aching back. No, He's showing me who you were. Is there a difference? Yes. She took his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. The man in that video wouldn't have flown back from Tokyo for me. Wouldn't have supported my career while protecting our family. Wouldn't be agonizing over past mistakes. Before Nathan could respond, his phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Ethan Marshall. Hayes has gone public, Marshall said without preamble. He's released edited portions of the video to every major news outlet. It's already trending. Clara watched the color drain from Nathan's face as Marshall continued. He's painting you as a corporate raider who hasn't changed, suggesting your relationship with Dr. Raider. Thompson is another calculated move acquiring her research, the same way you acquired Carter Tech. That's ridiculous, Clara protested, but Nathan's expression stopped her. After ending the call, he sank into his chair, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. Hayes is right about one thing. I did notice your research before I met you. Blake Industries had been tracking breakthrough biotechnology projects. Your work, it caught my attention. Clara felt her heart stutter. What are you saying? That night in the hotel, our meeting wasn't entirely accidental. I'd seen your conference schedule, knew you were staying there. He met her eyes. I didn't plan what happened between us, but I had hoped to meet you to discuss potential investment opportunities. Clara stepped back, her mind reeling. So when you recognized me in the hotel room, I already knew who you were. Nathan stood, reaching for her. Clara, please. Yes, your research initially drew my attention, but everything that happened after that was real. Is real. She evaded his touch, needing space to think. What else haven't you told me? About Hayes? About us. Hayes blames me for Thomas's death. The words came out in a rush. He thinks the stress of our hostile takeover attempts caused his heart attack. He's been waiting years to destroy me, and now he's using you to do it. Clara pressed a hand to her stomach, feeling the twins move as if sensing her distress. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because I'm ashamed of who I was. Nathan's voice cracked slightly. Because I was afraid of losing you. Because his phone buzzed again. Marshall with more updates, more fires to fight. Clara held up a hand, stopping him from answering. No more diversions, she said firmly. No more half-truths. Tell me everything, Nathan. Now. For the next hour, Nathan talked about growing up under his father's impossible expectations. About competing with Hayes for Thomas Carter's mentorship and approval. About the years of ruthless business decisions that built his empire, but cost him his humanity. And the night I met you, he finished softly. I had every intention of being the same calculating businessman. But then you walked into my room brilliant and real and completely unexpected. You made me want to be better. Clara stood at the window, watching the sun set over Boston Harbor. I need time to process this, Nathan. Clara. Not much time, she assured him, her hand resting on her bump. We're past the luxury of long separations. But I need to think. To decide if I can trust you again. Nathan nodded, his face haunted. Whatever you need. Just be careful. Hayes won't stop here. As if summoned by his words, both their phones buzzed simultaneously. Clara opened the news alert and felt her blood freeze. The headline screamed, Blake's pregnant fiancée. Corporate espionage investigation launched. Below was a photo of Clara entering her lab, followed by details of a supposed investigation into whether her research had been illegally sharing data with Blake Industries. They're coming after your work now, Nathan said quietly, because of me. Clara read the article again, anger replacing her shock. No. They're coming after both of us, and they've just made a serious mistake. What do you mean? She turned to him, her blue eyes blazing. They think I'm a weakness they can exploit. That I'll run when things get hard. That I'll believe their version of you over what I've seen with my own eyes. And what have you seen? Nathan's voice was barely a whisper. A man who's trying to be better, who loves deeply, even if he's afraid to show it, who's going to be an amazing father because he knows exactly what not to do. She moved to him, taking his hands. I'm still angry you didn't tell me everything sooner, but I'm not going anywhere. Nathan pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she agreed, making him laugh softly. But you're stuck with me. With us. She guided his hand to where one of the twins was kicking. Now let's show Hayes what happens when he threatens our family. As they began planning their counterattack, Clara felt a new strength flowing between them. The truth, painful as it was, had only made their bond stronger. Hayes had tried to break them apart, but he'd succeeded in bringing them closer together. The sun had fully set now, painting the sky in deep purples and blues. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles. But tonight they were stronger than ever, their foundation built not on perfect pasts but on honest presents and shared futures. At 20 weeks pregnant, Clara stood before a room full of university board members, her head held high despite the exhaustion weighing on her. The investigation into her research had escalated, forcing her to defend not just her work but her entire integrity. "Dr. Thompson," the board chairman began, "these allegations are serious. Evidence suggests unauthorized sharing of proprietary information with Blake Industries." "What evidence?" Clara's voice was steady. "I've reviewed every document submitted. They show nothing more than standard academic citations and public patent filings." From the back of the room, Clara felt Nathan's supportive presence. They'd argued about his attendance. He'd wanted to speak on her behalf, but she'd insisted on fighting this battle herself. "The timing of your relationship with Mr. Blake has nothing to do with my research," Clara interrupted. "My work on cellular regeneration began years before I met Nathan. Every experiment, every finding is meticulously documented and independently verified." She moved to the presentation screen, pulling up her research timeline. "But since we're discussing timing, let's talk about who benefits from these allegations. Not the university, not scientific progress. Only one person gains from discrediting both my work and Blake Industries simultaneously." The board members shifted uncomfortably as Clara displayed a series of documents. Victor Hayes's companies have been attempting to patent similar cellular regeneration processes that bear striking similarities to research he had access to while serving on this university's corporate advisory board. A murmur ran through the room. Clara felt one of the twins kick, as if offering encouragement. Dr. Thompson, a senior board member, leaned forward. "Are you suggesting Mr. Hayes stole your research?" "I'm stating facts." Clara touched her silver microscope charm for courage. While Hayes was on the advisory board, he had access to preliminary findings from multiple research projects, including mine. 6 months later, his companies filed patents that mirror those findings. The room erupted in hushed discussions. Clara remained standing, one hand resting protectively on her bump, until the chairman called for order. "These are serious counter-allegations," he said. "We'll need time to investigate. Take all the time you need." Clara's smile held steel. "My research documents are completely transparent. I wonder if Mr. Hayes can say the same." As the board filed out, Nathan moved to Clara's side. "That was risky." She finished, "but necessary." His hand found hers. "Hayes won't take this lightly. I'm counting on it." Back at their penthouse, Clara finally allowed herself to show the strain of the day, sinking onto their sofa with a groan. "You should rest," Nathan said, concern evident in his voice. "No time." Clara rubbed hair back. "Hayes will retaliate soon. We need to be ready." As if on cue, Nathan's phone rang. Ethan Marshall's voice was urgent. "Hayes is calling a press conference in an hour." They watched the conference from Nathan's home office. Hayes stood at his podium, his usual polished appearance slightly frayed. "These baseless accusations are a desperate attempt by Blake and his associate to deflect from their own misdeeds," Hayes declared. "I have evidence that will expose the truth about Nathan Blake once and for all." Clara felt Nathan tense beside her as Hayes continued. "Tomorrow I will reveal documents showing Blake's involvement in Thomas Carter's death. The stress of fighting our takeover attempts didn't kill Thomas. Blake's direct actions did." The press erupted in questions, but Hayes had already stepped away. Nathan's face was ashen. "He's bluffing," Clara said firmly. "He can't have evidence of something that didn't happen." "Can't he?" Nathan's laugh was hollow. "The night before Thomas died, I met with him privately. Threatened to expose some personal indiscretions if he didn't agree to the takeover. The stress of that meeting—" "Stop." Clara gripped his arm. You couldn't have known about his heart condition. Hayes did. He was like a son to Thomas, knew his health was fragile. I didn't care enough to find out. Nathan's voice broke slightly. I was so focused on winning. Clara's phone buzzed Sophie, sending her an urgent message. Turn on the financial news now. They switched channels to find Hayes being interviewed live. Blake's relationship with Dr. Thompson follows his usual pattern. He was saying, find someone vulnerable, exploit their weaknesses, take what he wants. I'm simply trying to protect her from his manipulation. By attacking her research, Clara's voice shook with anger. By threatening our family, he's trying to position himself as your protector, Nathan said quietly. Turn public opinion against me by playing the concerned friend while simultaneously destroying my professional credibility. Clara stood, pacing despite her exhaustion. He wants me to leave you. To play the victim in his narrative. Nathan watched her move, his expression pained. Maybe he's right. Everyone I care about gets hurt. Thomas. You. Don't. Clara whirled to face him. Don't you, Dare? Don't let him win by making you doubt yourself. The man I love, the father of my children, is not the same person who met with Thomas that night. How can you be so sure? Because that man wouldn't be torturing himself with guilt 8 years later. She moved to him, taking his face in her hands. Because I've seen you change, seen you choose love over power, truth over convenience. Nathan pulled her closer, his hand spreading over her bump where their twins moved restlessly. But I can't lose you, he whispered. Any of you, then fight for us. Clara's voice was fierce. Not with Hayes's weapons of manipulation and deceit, but with the truth. All of it. The truth could destroy everything I've built, or it could set you free. They stayed like that for a long moment. The city lights twinkling beyond their windows, their babies moving beneath their joined hands. Finally, Nathan straightened, decision settling over his features. Marshall, he said into his phone, arrange a press conference first thing tomorrow. Before Hayes's announcement. After he hung up, Clara asked, what are you going to say? Everything. Nathan's eyes held both fear and determination. About Thomas. About who I was. About how you changed me. No more hiding. They'll crucify you in the press. Probably, he managed a small smile. But our children will know their father chose truth over power. That matters more. Clara felt tears threaten. I'll be right beside you. No. Nathan kissed her softly. You've fought enough battles lately. Tomorrow is mine. Nathan. The twins need you rested and calm. His tone brooked new argument. Let me protect our family this way, while I still can. Later that night, Clara lay awake listening to Nathan's steady breathing beside her. Tomorrow would change everything: his reputation, their future, the world their children would be born into. Her hand found the silver microscope charm. Remembering that first night in New York, when everything seemed simpler, yet even then, something in her had recognized the complexity of the man beside her, had seen past his carefully constructed facade to the heart beneath. The twins moved, a now familiar flutter that never failed to amaze her. Your daddy is a good man. No matter what anyone says tomorrow, remember that. Nathan stirred, his arm tightening around her unconsciously. Even in sleep, he was protective, loving in his own complicated way. Tomorrow would bring chaos, accusations, and possibly the end of everything Nathan had built. But tonight, in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, Clara held on to the truth she knew in her heart. Love wasn't about perfect pasts or unblemished reputations. It was about choosing to be better, fighting for what matters, and facing the future together, no matter what it might bring. The morning of Nathan's press conference dawned clear and cold. Clara watched from their penthouse as news vans gathered outside Blake Industries, her hand absently rubbing her prominent 7-month belly. The twins were particularly active today, as if sensing the tension in the air. You should be resting, Nathan said, emerging from their bedroom in a perfectly tailored suit that couldn't quite hide the strain of the past months. As if I could sleep. Clara turned to face him. Are you sure about this? No. He managed a small smile, but it's the right thing to do. Before he could leave, Clara caught his hand, pressing it to where one of the twins was kicking. Feel that? That's your legacy, Nathan. Not Blake Industries. not your father's expectations. This. Nathan's expression softened as he felt their child move. I love you, he said quietly. Whatever happens today, remember that. The press conference was scheduled for 9 o'clock at M. Clara watched from home as Nathan took the podium, cameras flashing. Hayes stood at the back of the room, his expression triumphant until Nathan began to speak. 8 years ago, Nathan's voice was steady. I made choices that haunt me to this day. Thomas Carter was more than a business rival. He was a mentor, a friend, and I betrayed that friendship in pursuit of power. The room fell silent as Nathan continued, detailing the events leading to Thomas's death. He spoke of the threatening meeting, the takeover attempt, the ruthless ambition that had driven him. I didn't know about his heart condition, Nathan said, his composure cracking slightly, but my actions that night contributed to his death. I've carried that guilt for 8 years, trying to bury it in more acquisitions, more power until I met someone who showed me a different way to live. Clara's hand went to her throat, feeling tears threaten as Nathan spoke about their relationship, the real version, not the sanitized public story. Yes, I knew of Dr. Thompson's research before we met. Yes, I hoped to discuss potential investments, but what happened instead was something I never expected. I fell in love. Real love. The kind that makes you want to be better, to face your demons, to tell the truth no matter the cost. The cameras turned to Hayes as Nathan addressed him directly. You were right about one thing, Victor. I did contribute to Thomas's death. But you're wrong about everything else, wrong about Clara, wrong about me, and wrong about using the past as a weapon. Hayes moved forward, his face dark with rage, but Nathan wasn't finished. I have here, he held up a file, documentation proving that you stole research from multiple university projects, including Dr. Thompson's work. The SEC has already been notified. Your attempts to destroy us have only exposed your own crimes. The room erupted in chaos. Through it all, Nathan remained steady, answering questions with unprecedented honesty. Yes, he had been ruthless. Yes, he had hurt people. And yes, he was different now. Not because I'm trying to protect my reputation, he concluded, but because Clara Thompson showed me that real strength comes from facing the truth, not hiding from it, from choosing love over power, from being the kind of man our children can be proud of. Clara was so absorbed in the broadcast that she almost missed the first contraction. When the second one hit 5 minutes later, she realized with sudden clarity. The twins had their own timing in mind. She called Sophie first, then Daniel to arrange secure transportation to the hospital. Only after she was settled in the car did she call Nathan, who was still handling the press fallout. Now? His composure finally cracked. But you're not due for another month. Tell that to your children, Clara managed through another contraction. They apparently share your taste for dramatic timing. Everything moved quickly after that. By the time Nathan arrived at the hospital, still in his press conference suit, Clara was already in active labor. Sophie met him at the door, her expression stern. She's been asking for you, Sophie said. But if you ever put her through something like this morning's stress again, I won't, Nathan promised, following her to Clara's room. Clara lay in the hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily around her. Despite the pain, she smiled when she saw him. How bad is it out there? Our stock is down 30%. Several board members have called for my resignation. Hayes is being investigated by the SEC. Nathan took her hand. None of it matters right now. Hours passed in a blur of contractions, medical terms, and tense moments. Clara alternated between crushing Nathan's hand and demanding he tell her about the press reaction to keep her mind occupied. One more push. The doctor finally announced, the first baby is almost here. Their son arrived with a powerful cry, his sister following minutes later. As the twins were checked and cleaned, Nathan pressed his forehead to Clara's, both of them crying freely. They're perfect, he whispered. You're perfect. When they finally held their children, their daughter with Clara's blue eyes, their son with Nathan's dark hair, the world outside ceased to exist. There was only this, their family, whole and complete at last. What should we name them? Clara asked softly, cradling their daughter while Nathan held their son. Thomas, Nathan said quietly. For our son. Not to erase the past, but to honor it. To remember that even our darkest moments can lead to light. Clara nodded, understanding. And for our daughter? Lila. It means night. Thomas and Lila Blake. Nathan sat carefully on the bed beside her. Our new legacy. Days later, they brought the twins home to a world that had shifted on its axis. Blake Industries was restructuring, with Nathan stepping down as CEO to take a chairman position that would allow more time with his family. The university board had cleared Clara of all allegations and offered her a permanent research position with unprecedented independence. Hayes had been arrested, his theft of intellectual property exposing a pattern of corporate espionage that spanned years. The press had moved on to new scandals, leaving the Blakes to adjust to their new normal. Clara stood in the nursery, watching Nathan rock Lila while Thomas slept peacefully in his crib. The sight still amazed her, this powerful man who had once measured life in acquisitions and victories, now completely entranced by their tiny daughter's grip on his finger. Any regrets? She asked softly. Nathan looked up, his eyes full of emotion. About losing the company? No. About waiting so long to become this person? Every day? You were always this person. Clara moved to sit beside them. You just needed someone to remind you. Several someones, he corrected, smiling as Lila yawned. You, the twins, even Hayes, in his way. Sometimes our worst enemies give us our greatest gifts. Clara touched the silver microscope charm she still wore, a reminder of their beginning. And sometimes one wrong hotel room can lead exactly where we're meant to be. As the Boston sunset painted the nursery in soft colors, Clara thought about their journey from that first night of unexpected passion to the challenges that had tested their love. They had faced public scrutiny, professional threats, and personal demons. Yet here they were, stronger for having weathered the storms together. Thomas stirred in his crib, and Nathan gently laid Lila beside her brother. The twins instantly turned toward each other, a mirror of the connection that had brought their parents together. I love you, Clara said, watching Nathan watch their children. Not despite your past, but because of who it helped you become. Nathan pulled her close, his arms strong and sure. And I love you for seeing who I could be. Even when I couldn't see it myself. Outside, the city hummed with life and possibility. Inside, in this quiet room with its sleeping miracles, Clara and Nathan held on to their own miracle, the love that had transformed them both, the truth that had set them free, and the future they would build together, one day at a time. What price would you be willing to pay for love? Clara risked her career and reputation, while Nathan sacrificed his carefully built empire. Was it worth it for them? Would it be worth it for you? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.